Hey, so it's been a fun first round so far, huh?
Yeah, it sure has.
All right. I was ready to draft Laramie Tunsil for SB Nation. I was ready to make him an offer. He would fit right in.
No judgments here.
All right. So we are all in the same. We're all in the same bunker. We're all ready to analyze round one, and you will notice that we all have manila envelopes in front of our persons. And what we're doing, and we're on what? We're on the, who's on the clock? The Broncos at the moment?
The Broncos just traded to 26.
The Broncos just traded 26. The Seahawks trade down. They get a third rounder. So Seahawks are doing what the Seahawks do, stockpiling picks, building depth. Ho-hum, they'll be good for a little while. Let's start at the top. We knew Goff and Wentz were going to go 1 and 2 by a show of emojis. Before we get into all the Laramie Tunsil fun, give me what you feel about, let's go with Jared Goff. There it is. You're getting cool sunglasses. I'm going right on target.
Yeah?
We're getting 100.
Whoa.
We're getting, Steven wants that poop, but no, goes with the target. Goes with the target. It's right on the money. It's right on the money. We can agree he is probably a need, but we're not crazy about him.
He's definitely a need, whether he's not a sure thing, though.
Right, okay. Fair enough. Carson Wentz to the Eagles at number 2. Does not have a ton of experience playing against top defenses, but certainly physically he's there. I'm going to go with a 0-0-1. I'm going with a 0-0-1. No, I like him. He's caught your attention.
Away, and then we're setting it on fire.
We're setting it on fire. Well, there's a lot of money to be set on fire in Philadelphia.
I just like this guy. I'm not happy with my emoji choices here.
You're not happy?
Yeah, no.
What do you wish you had?
I don't know. Just, you know, the guy with like the no expression, just kind of like.
Just the straight line, like,
Yeah, that's
I
what
feel nothing, I'm dead inside, I'm watching Roger Goodell read a
That's
list
what
of
I'm looking
names.
for.
I specifically requested an eggplant emoji and did not get one.
You would use that way too often. You
I
would
can't
take
be trusted
advantage.
with it. No.
Guys, and you would make convoluted sort of packages. You'd be like, all right, I've got the eggplant, but it's 100 eggplant, and it's going into the target, and it's on fire. So that's how we're feeling about Carson Wentz. It's fine, not great. Here's where things got a little bit weird. Joey Bosa seemed like he was going to fall into the 7 to 11 type range with what everybody had been hearing, but he goes 3 to the Chargers, and he's not the most obvious fit. Steven, what is it about fit-wise that you don't quite understand about Bosa in San Diego?
Well, he's not an edge guy in a 3-4. Like, he's not a stand-up outside linebacker guy.
Right.
But he's also not necessarily a 5 technique either, because he's only 270 pounds. Now, he's a big, strong guy, don't get me wrong, but normally you think those guys are more around the 290 range or what have you.
Right.
And he has the frame where he could put on a little bit more weight. Now, the thing about it is I actually looked up their depth chart after the pick was made, and they really don't have a 5 technique in San Diego. So it does kind of feel a need, but I mean, at number 3 for a 5 technique, I just don't see it. And he's got some pass rush ability inside as a 3 technique. But I just don't know how you're going to showcase it when he's getting beat up as a 5 technique, in between the offensive tackle and the tight end all the time.
Here's what we do know about the AFC West, though. Quarterback-wise, Phil Rivers looks to be standing alone on an island as a very good quarterback in that division. You have Alex Smith, who's fine. You have Derek Carr, who's young and improving. And you have whatever the hell is going to happen in Denver. I don't know what exactly they were going to do. So,
Mark Sanchez.
Mark Sanchez. So, but investing in a pass rusher.
They did draft Paxton Lynch.
Paxton Lynch to Denver.
There it is.
Might not start this year, but even still, a rookie in Denver if he wins that spot. So I'm going with some eyeballs. Like, I'm intrigued. You get after a quarterback in the AFC West, you can cause some damage. I'm okay with it. I'm not wild about it. Next pick at number 4. How are we feeling?
Zeke Elliott.
Zeke Elliott
to the Cowboys. Certainly, it's the most Jerry Jones
I'm gonna keep my eyeballs. Keep my eyeballs out.
It's a very Jerry Jones pick.
We're up on this pick at the end of that table. Okay.
I don't know how I feel about it. I'll just keep the eyeballs up.
Okay, so you can go like eyeballs backwards or something like that. So Zeke Elliott, some people near the end of mock season had him to the Cowboys. He's a playmaker. We've seen Jerry Jones grab a first-round running back before in Felix Jones a few years ago. Didn't quite work out. But now we have a playmaker with a quarterback who should be healthy, albeit a little bit aging, but behind an unbelievable offensive line that isn't the most expensive offensive line in the world outside of Tyron Smith. So he should succeed pretty quickly. What do we think, Stephen?
Well, I think that, for one, this is a way to kind of extend Tony Romo's career, because now everything's not going to be on his shoulders.
Right.
And we know when you put too much on his shoulders,
His
a lot of
collarbone
times-
breaks.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly. And so you stole my punchline.
Sorry about that. I'm so sorry.
But seriously, now they can kind of just grind out the games and let that offensive line work and really lean on people. And Ezekiel Elliott is one of the most complete backs we've seen come out of college football in a very long time. And so he's a solid pick. He's a kind of a can't-miss guy. Maybe they could have went out there, edge rusher or something like that. We know that their top 2 guys are going to be suspended, it looks like, the first 4 games. But I think this is a great pick for that team and where they're at right now, and with their quarterback situation, this is a great pick for them. Okay,
let me jump in right now to remind everybody that the post show as well is brought to you by Wendy's Jalapeno Fresco Spicy Chicken Sandwich. Thanks, Wendy's. I love this sandwich. It's very, very good. And before we move on to more picks, we are now joined by Blogging the Boys' own David Halpern, who is here to react to the pick. So, Dave, was this something you were expecting? And now that you know that you are getting far and away the most complete playmaker in the backfield of this draft, what is your reaction?
We pretty much were looking at either Jalen Ramsey or Ezekiel Elliott for the last, week or so. And for a while, Joey Bosa was kind of in the picture too, but he seemed to drop out. When they had their pre-draft press conference, it kind of made it seem that it was definitely down to Ramsey and Elliott. So not really a surprise. I mean, I think most of the fan base kind of thought they might go with Ramsey, but Ezekiel Elliott, complete back. 3-down back. You don't have to take him out. Can do everything. Proved he's a workhorse. Carried the load at Ohio State. He's got vision. He's got patience. He's got speed. He's got power. He's really one of the best backs you've seen come out in a long time. So they went ahead and defied the conventional wisdom that you don't take a back this high in the draft, because this is the game they want to play. 2014, when they had DeMarco Murray, they just ran the ball down people's throats, and they went 12-4. So I think they're trying to get back to that, and I think that they think Elliott's the guy who can do that. So it's a good pick. He's a playmaker, and the more offense you have, the more time on the clock you can ground off, the better your defense is going to do also.
All right, and do you personally like this pick? You understand the pick. Would you have liked to seen them go Ramsey? Do you think that was more of a pressing need with some of the success that Darren McFadden had behind such a good offensive line last year?
I probably would have taken Ramsey, and the reason because I worry about shelf life with running backs. If you get Ramsey, you're looking at a guy, who, if you sign him to the second contract, you're pretty sure you're going to get a decade's worth of play out of that guy, and you're expecting him to be top-level talent. Everybody seems to think that. With a running back, sometimes they fall off. 3-4 years, all of a sudden they fall off, or 6 years. You just never know what's going to happen with those guys. So I would have taken Ramsey, but I'm not saying it was like an overwhelming thing. It was definitely been a hard choice for me, and I think it was a hard choice for the Cowboys. I think they went back and forth on it. But I think you could have picked up, somebody like a Kenneth Dixon or somebody else, Devontae Booker, a little later in the draft, paired them up with Alfred Morris or Darren McFadden, and had a really good quality running game. So from that fact, that's why I would have gone Jalen Ramsey, but I'm not upset that they took Elliott.
Excellent. Dave, thank you very much, and good luck to the Cowboys. And everybody do check out Blogging the Boys, the greatest Cowboys community on this here World Wide Web. We talked about Jalen Ramsey, or Dave talked about Jalen Ramsey, falls to the Jags, who not only get this year's first-round pick in Jalen Ramsey, but they get last year's first-round pick for the first time, Dante Fowler. Matt, your thoughts on the Jags, who didn't seem terribly far away moving forward?
No, I am on officially the Jacksonville Jaguars bandwagon for 2016. I think that they're going to be vastly improved this coming year, and it starts with that defense, getting Dante Fowler, possibly one of the best defensive player of the last year's draft, and Jalen Ramsey, probably the best defensive player.
And they
of
had
this
Malik
year's draft.
Jackson, of course, in
and
free
they had
agency.
Malik Jackson, and I would be totally unsurprised to see the Jaguars win the conference title, or sorry, the division title.
Division title, sure.
AFC South champs. Now that the competition is so tough in that division.
Yes, always.
But I think it's more than that, though. It's going to be a fun team to watch with energetic, explosive defensive players.
Of youth, yep.
A lot of youth, and you've got a proven solid defensive coach. I think this is going to be a very fun team to watch.
Show me your emojis. Show the camera your beautiful emojis. I'm going to explain mine. I've got the pile of poop. Because that's what I think receivers are going to be feeling by the end of next season. Because Jalen Ramsey is so damn versatile on the field, and as soon as he gets used to NFL speed, I'm very excited. Susannah, do you like Jalen Ramsey here?
I love Jalen Ramsey. I'm just sad that he couldn't stay around long enough for Chicago.
All right. I am sorry to hear that. Ronnie Stanley, the first offensive lineman off the board to the Ravens, who are known to take a defensive player who inexplicably falls too far.
Yeah.
Ronnie Stanley, Stephen, you had a chance to evaluate him. Your thoughts, and you liked him more than Laramie Tunsil for purely football reasons.
Right. The reason why I liked him over Laramie Tunsil is because he actually showed that he could pass block on the college level one-on-one. And with the proliferation of these zone read offenses, you don't see a bunch of offensive tackles doing that a lot.
Right.
Laramie Tunsil, he's a guy that, I mean, sometimes he was run blocking on their passing plays. And when he did have to pass block some of the better pass rushers in the SEC, like Garrett Miles, for instance, he didn't always look all that great to me.
Right.
So he's a fantastic athlete, very strong. But to me, I think that Laramie Tunsil, there's some things he's going to have to learn.
Right.
As far as pass blocking on the NFL level in order for him to be successful. It's kind of like Greg Robinson a couple years ago.
Yes.
Fantastic athlete, powerful guy, but has struggled as a pass blocker. Ronnie Stanley is a guy, maybe he doesn't have that kind of upside. He's not the same kind of athlete, but he's shown that he can pass block high-level pass rushers on a college football level, and I actually saw a little bit of Jonathan Ogden in him, so it's actually kind of funny that he ended up going to the Ravens.
Fair enough. Numbers 8 and 9 are not the most exciting picks, so San Francisco goes with yet another Oregon defensive lineman. Go Ducks. Go Ducks indeed. And in DeForest Buckner, enormous, fits in with their system really well. Tennessee trades up. They get Jack Conklin, an offensive lineman who's a bit raw, but everybody figured Tennessee was going to invest in an offensive lineman to help protect Marcus Mariota for the long term. Which brings us to Susannah and Leonard Floyd and the Chicago Bears.
Chicago Bears.
How should they be feeling about this in Buffalo Grove, Illinois?
I don't know. It looked like a very mixed reaction in Chicago, the Bears fans. I mean, I know Ryan Pace was really high on this guy. They loved his athleticism. They loved his speed. And, I got to trust Vic Fangio.
Sure.
He saw something that he really liked. I wouldn't have minded them shoring up the secondary, perhaps. I mean, there were a lot of needs that they had to address. So, there's some question marks here, but, he's a great athlete.
Which they have invested in the secondary recently, Kyle Fuller.
Exactly. So, I mean, anytime that you can, make improvements on defense, that's going to be a good thing. So I'm okay with it. I kind of have a little question mark by it, though. We'll see how he does. He's not as big as I would like him to be.
But over the course of an offseason, the Bears have turned linebacker from a dusty, windswept plane to an actual like strength for the team. That's pretty exciting.
Yes.
Danny Trevathan in free agency as well.
Exactly.
So, Susannah, what is your official emoji grade for Georgia's Leonard Floyd coming in as a very complete edge rusher?
I am going to give this. I'll give it a bullseye.
So you feel the Vic Fangio influence?
Yeah.
We'll do Leonard Floyd
Absolutely.
well. Let's jump back for a moment because we have David Fucillo on from Niners Nation to talk further about DeForest Buckner. And every so often, Fuch gets a hold of me wanting to know about Oregon players, and I try to help him out. Fuch, how are you feeling about DeForest Buckner, the largest hands that have ever existed?
Well, I'm pretty excited about it, although the 49ers apparently just traded back into the first round, so they are back on the clock.
At what number?
At 28.
At 28.
They just traded. They're at number 28, so I think they just traded with the Chiefs.
Okay, so first, your DeForest Buckner grade and how he fits in with that defense, alongside now Eric Armstead, a promising young defensive lineman.
Oh, he's a perfect fit. The 49ers obviously have some defensive linemen there already, and Eric Armstead and Quentin Dial. But as you know, with Chip Kelly offense, you can't have enough defensive linemen rotating in there, and so there's going to be plenty of rotation there. He's a guy that fits right in at 3-4 defensive end. They can roll him into the defensive tackle role when they go into their nickel. There's a good chance he's their best defensive lineman from day one.
Fair enough. And at 28, as the 49ers are nearing their pick, what do they do with yet another first-round pick? Obviously, they came into the draft with a number of draft slots, but where do you think they go? Because you're about to be proven wrong, probably. That's how it's going to work.
It looks like it is Stanford guard Joshua Garnett.
Okay, so they're shoring up the offensive line, which certainly one side of it needed that help.
Yeah, this is definitely a bit of a surprise. There was some thought they might move up to get Connor Cook, but that line definitely needs some help.
See, that's a Fuchs exclusive. You can't get that anywhere else. Listening to Fuchs as they pick. All right, David Fucillo, everybody be sure to check out Niners Nation, an outstanding 49ers community. Yeah, I feel good about the Niners. I'm a Chip Kelly apologist, so you should not trust my opinion. No, that's exactly what you should do with your lives. At number 10, the Giants with Eli Apple, yet another Buckeye. What's so funny, Susannah?
It's just.
I know.
Let's go back to the Niners for a second.
Okay.
They did have. They entered this draft with 12 picks.
Yes.
So they had more opportunities than any other team besides the Cleveland Browns.
Yep.
So if they had the guy that they needed, that they felt they needed to move up for, I think it's fine to move up for.
Yeah, and what they did when they were building out this initial Harbaugh run was they drafted offensive linemen highly. They drafted Mike Iupati. They drafted Anthony Davis. They drafted Joe Staley. So this is not an unusual tactic for them if they feel like this is a sort of a rock for 10, 12 years. So we shall see. The Giants at number 10 with Eli Apple, a little bit higher than everybody thought he would go, especially given his cooking ability. I don't know if we have... This is where the eggplant emoji would have come in handy. So the Giants in corner, it's a need-ish for the Giants, but I think we felt like they could have gone...
They had bigger needs at linebacker, bigger need at safety.
Yeah.
They had bigger need at tackle even though they took Eric Flowers with their first overall pick, or the 9th or 10th overall pick last year. They could still use offensive line help. It's not a great one. They did add Janoris Jenkins in the offseason, but adding depth to your secondary when the nickel package is the base defensive package for most of the time, it's not a bad pick. And his name is Eli. They've had a proven success with Eli's. It's the Big Apple.
Yep.
He can't cook. We've got Seamless.
We've got Seamless.
It's a perfect fit.
You do have a division, though, where you don't want to run out of quality corners. You have Tony Romo becoming healthy, we assume. Kirk Cousins certainly improved the back half of last season, and Chase Daniel. So what quarterback can't succeed?
Not while I'm thinking.
I know. I said that as I realized that as I said it. I'm going with some eyeballs, but I'm hoping for the best. He played a lot of man in college, and the zone was sort of more employed more often for the Giants. So we'll see what happens. At number 11, another corner, Vernon Hargreaves to Tampa, makes a whole lot of sense given their needs. Your thoughts, Susannah, Steven?
Tampa had so many needs that obviously they could have picked anywhere, and I would have been like, yeah, that's probably a good
quarterback,
pick. But especially at cornerback, last year, like in the middle of the season, they just switched cornerbacks from the starters and went to 2 backups, and then they went back to the starters. It was just a mess. And so they already started rebuilding the secondary earlier this offseason. They got the cornerback from the Dolphins, whose wife likes to go off.
Brent Grimes.
Yeah, Brent Grimes.
Right.
His wife likes to go off
Yes,
on
she does.
Good old
social
Miko.
media. I think she told somebody to eat some particular part of the anatomy, the male anatomy.
I was going to work the poop.
Earlier today, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Right. So
Eggplant.
Should have had the eggplant.
Where's the eggplant emoji?
and really, Hargreaves, in a lot of ways, kind of reminds you of Grimes because he's a little undersized, but he's a ball hawk. So and you got Mike Smith now, who's the defense coordinator. I think it's a really good pick for them.
Fair enough.
And Mike Smith, as the defensive coordinator now, has proven that he doesn't mind undersized cornerback.
Right.
Had success with
Had
Desmond
Grimes in
Trufant.
Atlanta, yeah.
And so, as the NFL moves towards this, we want long corners with 39-inch arms. There's still success to be had for guys who are a little bit smaller, faster, have good technique.
Absolutely.
Fair enough. Sheldon Rankins of Louisville, a very athletic defensive lineman, played inside, listed as a defensive end. I guess would play an end in a 3-4 scheme. You did a scouting report on him. New Orleans needed so much defensively. What do you guys think?
It's a great pick for them.
Show me some emojis. Susanna, give me an emoji.
That's a. This is a.
You're
that's
going
a,
fire?
Yeah.
I
it's
really
a
like
great-
Sheldon Rankins.
Yeah, it's a great pick for them.
He was somebody that felt like he could go anywhere between 9. Yeah, we're going there. 9 and 15
Fire
in that range.
everywhere.
Yeah.
I'd also like to state my desire to have the flexing bicep emoji.
I think you just made it.
Just because, yes.
This is my movie.
There it was. Okay.
Because I hate the fact that he's ended up in a 3-4.
Okay, why is that?
This
Fair,
guy
fair.
is so good as a 4-3 defensive tackle, but he kind of played a 3-4 at Louisville, and I don't think they were able to really showcase his talents a lot. They had him playing that defensive end a little bit too much, which I actually said in my breakdown.
Right.
And so I was hoping that he went to more of a 4-3 defense, but there's going to be opportunities for him to rush, obviously, on 3rd and long inside. I just wish he would be in there like full time.
What is it about him as a 4-3 defensive tackle potentially that stands out to you?
Well, he's really quick off the ball, and he got some real good pass rush moves. I think he used to play basketball or something. They talked about that when he was at the Senior Bowl. He's got this really nice spin move and stuff like that. So he moves better than a guy his size has any right to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah.
But he's a little undersized to be a defensive end, and that's what he's going to end up being in a 3-4.
You would like a little bit more length if you were playing ends.
Usually.
Yeah,
And
fair
maybe
enough.
a little bit more height, too. You know, put some lifts
Laramie
in the
Tunsil to
shoes.
Miami. I guess we could just sort of skip over that whole, like, just another boring situation. Okay, so Laramie Tunsil, a video comes out a few minutes before the draft begins. At one point, the assumed presumptive #1 overall pick before the trades happen to the Titans. Then everybody sort of said 4, 6, 7, somewhere in that range. Falls to 13. There was a report that the Ravens took him off their board completely for this video that shows him smoking pot through a gas mask, which...
A gas mask bong, Dan.
Excuse me. Gas mask
Get it
bong,
right.
sir.
Get it right.
Kind of a funny video. I mean, it wasn't the worst video I've ever seen in my life. And then all sorts of weird text messages. Maybe they're real, maybe they're fake, coming out about some payments from a coach. And then he did an interview saying he did take payments from a coach, then didn't, but then affirmed that he did.
That's...
Shut down social media.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Let's just go back.
Just deactivate it all.
That's when that, like, the best PR person in the world is just like, give me your phone, Laramie.
Yeah, let's
Just and
like
everybody you
everything
know,
now.
give me your phone.
Changing your password from password
Yeah.
to password with a 4 for
Oh,
the
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Laramie? Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Okay, so Laramie Tunsil as a prospect, Steven, what made him so tantalizing to so many teams initially?
Well, like I said, he's just a tremendous athlete for a man that size. Can really run, gets up on the second level a lot, and blocking linebackers. Can really play well out in space as far as going out and blocking on screens and stuff like that. He's a big, powerful guy. He really can knock people off the ball. He's impressive in that way, just visually, that maybe Ronnie Stanley isn't. Whereas Ronnie Stanley isn't really just, pancaking guys left and right.
He's just technically sound.
Right,
Yeah.
he's just technically sound. You can actually see Laramie Tunsil dominating people.
Right.
And so I think that's really what got people so excited about him and what he maybe could turn into as an NFL player.
All right, let's drop some Laramie Tunsil emojis. What say you? I mean, you have
man.
to.
Oh, God.
And I'm fine with it. I feel great about it.
Oh,
I got that flame. I got that
We
fire.
had the same one.
Money flying
Money
away.
flying away. It went up in smoke.
What do we have,
So
Matt? There we go, the crying.
I'm cry laughing at the whole thing. It's both sad and hilarious to me that such a stupid thing on so many levels can affect
So much outrage,
someone on a million. Like I saw, I forget who it was, projected that he'd lost like $10 to $12 million in salary but getting drafted by a team that has no, or a team in a state that has no income tax, it should help out.
Good. And you know what? I think we can all agree. Let's hope Laramie Tunsil sort of gets his act together, whatever that might or might not mean, and has a long, successful, healthy NFL career.
Absolutely.
I mean, they've got a Pouncey brother in the middle of the line to keep him in
the
line.
bar is so low.
Yeah.
We're great.
He can
the
stay
bar
out
is
of trouble in Miami.
Sure.
Yeah, man.
What's there to do in
Miami? Seriously.
Listen, Miami's gonna be underwater in like 2.5 years. Just live it up. Just live it up. All right, crazy Carl Joseph to the Raiders. Fits in really nicely next to Reggie Nelson at strong safety. Was a ball hawk, did tear his ACL, so there was injury concern coming in. But the Raiders, another team who've built up their defense from the inside out, and now with Carl Joseph, that ball hawk in the back, and can do so many different things for that defense. It makes almost too much sense.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
Okay.
That's great.
That wraps it up.
Obviously, as a Seahawks fan, the comparison that I can't help but notice popped up is Earl Thomas.
Sure.
That speedy ball hawking free safety.
Yeah.
And if he's even 80% of Earl Thomas, he's going to be a hugely impactful player for that team.
Susannah, any Carl Joseph thoughts for the Raiders?
You know, I just is he rehabbing from a torn
An ACL, yeah.
ACL. I mean, we've seen so many guys come back from that injury. So
And he was
should not hamper him.
He
at
was
all.
a player for West Virginia that I liked because it was a defense that had improved in large part from what he was able to do from that defense from the top down. He was turning teams over. Teams were always accounting for him, and those types of guys, even through an injury, are always impressive.
Yeah.
So really like the Carl Joseph pick, very solid. Was surprised a little bit that Oakland didn't go Reggie Ragland. We've seen a couple middle linebackers not get taken at all. Miles Jack still at the moment on the board. So interesting to me because that would have filled the need, and Reggie Ragland, the best healthy inside linebacker in the draft.
How do you feel about Carl with a K?
Carl.
That's how Karl Marx spelled it.
A lot of character concerns.
Yeah.
Character with a K.
Carl.
I like a Carl with a C personally.
Interesting.
Yeah, I like two first names.
I like. It's not that interesting. Corey Coleman to Cleveland. Right now, his quarterback is RG3, and I presume it will continue to be RG3. You have the Baylor connection. Corey Coleman. It's not a huge stretch to say that he is or might be the best player in this draft at some point. A little bit smaller, but a complete terror for Baylor running that wide open offense. So a need for Cleveland. Do you guys have emoji grades? Do you guys have strong receiver thoughts? Steven, I know you liked Corey Coleman a lot.
Yeah.
Let's go. What do we have?
Yeah, I'm gonna give you the bullseye on that one.
I was going bullseye as well.
Yeah.
Why are you crying, Susannah?
Because I feel bad for him. Because because I think he's really talented, and I don't know who's going to be throwing him the ball.
The best of RG3, whatever that entails.
Here's the great thing about Corey Coleman, though.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a great quarterback with him. You can get him on end arounds, you can put him on back there on returns and stuff like that. He's going to get his as long as he's on the football field and stays healthy.
And we saw what an excellent Cleveland wide receiver can do, even with poor quarterback play a couple years ago with Josh Gordon. So, fair enough. Before we go any further with the emojis and the hijinks and Matt criticizing the way people spell their first names, Carson Wentz, as we mentioned, as everybody knows, went number 2 overall. But the fact that we have a North Dakota State quarterback going number 2 overall in the NFL draft is pretty incredible. Take a closer look.
The prospect that almost wasn't, presented by... The prospect that almost wasn't, presented by... The prospect that almost wasn't, presented by...
So we're gonna figure that out.
That was a really good segment, Dan.
I feel like right at the top, I nailed it. And I can't wait for you guys to see the rest of it because it gets even better from there.
It's a good tease. Should we talk about Carson Wentz a little bit more since we just brought him up?
Sure, let's talk about Carson Wentz because it's easy to make fun of Philly for their quarterback situation and how much money they spend. But if this trade works out to the point where Carson Wentz is, say, like Joe Flacco would be a huge success. Let's say he's like Andy Dalton, somebody like that. And I don't say that just because they have red hair. It's not a red hair thing. It's a red hair thing. I think he can be super serviceable to the point where, with a good quarterback coach, which it looks like he is going to have, that he can be good. Philly has built. They've drafted skill talent pretty high. Nelson Aguilar recently. I'm not ready to give up on him. Do we think that he can be a mainstay quarterback for years?
I actually, the people, and I know Steven and I were talking about this before the show, the Eagles have quite the conundrum at quarterback, given the fact that they have Chase Daniel and Sam Bradford and now Carson Wentz. That is a lot of money on the depth chart tied up to quarterback. And before the season begins, one of those guys has got to go. It's not going to be Carson Wentz. And because of money, it's probably not going to be Sam Bradford.
Right.
It would be insane to have all three of those guys. However, what I do like about that is that Carson Wentz needs to sit. He needs to sit for the, if not the entire first season, the plurality of it. And because Sam Bradford isn't going to make it through the entire season.
Steven? Yeah, no, he's not. Steven, what do you suppose is the challenge, the degree of difficulty from going to an FCS level as a quarterback to, even if he doesn't start this year or starts the back half of the season, to the NFC East? What is the dramatic change that other quarterbacks may not see?
the speed of the game.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be faster. And look, even when you play, I played in the SEC. But when you get to the NFL, man, everything's happening so much faster. You don't have time to think about anything. And that's doubly true for a quarterback. You have to make those reads and go ahead and throw those balls into tight windows without, really having a chance to sit back and just wait for stuff to happen.
Before they're open.
Before they're open. And judging from your receivers, which one of your receivers are reliable, or which one of the defensive backs should you just stay away from?
Right.
And I would think on that level at North Dakota State, he didn't face a whole bunch of shutdown corners. And so you're going to face one every single week, and sometimes two in the NFL. And so just the whole speed
Unless
of the
you're playing
game.
the Browns.
Hey, they got some pretty good. They got some pretty good quarterbacks now. Look, the Browns' problems really have been, institutional. They actually had some pretty decent players, but that's a whole nother story.
That's different.
But as far as Carson Wentz goes, I think that sitting will help him a little bit because he'll be able to watch and see whether it's Sam Bradford or Chase Daniel, how they react,
the mental reps,
and how they learn how to speed up their game.
Right.
But at the same time, you really learn best by doing. So at some point, they're going to have to take the reins off and put them out there. And the question is, how soon will that happen? And like Matt said, if you're relying on Sam Bradford, it's probably going to be sooner than later.
Right. All right. I'm going to cut you off right there. We're going to take another stab at it. We've got a great story with Carson Wentz and how he got here. Take a look.
The prospect that almost wasn't, presented by Wendy's Jalapeno Fresco Spicy Chicken Sandwich. Carson Wentz is and has everything physically and mentally that every NFL team should want. But if there were ever a quarterback who shouldn't be here for all sorts of reasons, it's Carson Wentz. 1, he's from Bismarck, North Dakota. And yes, football players are from everywhere. But at 5'8", 125 pounds his freshman year, he needed to and finally did grow into a 6'5", 200-pound quarterback his senior year, though that was after sustaining some pretty major injuries his junior year playing baseball, taking him away from playing quarterback and putting him millions of miles from major college football. 2, after getting pretty much no attention from major college football, he found a great fit with the North Dakota State Bison, though he did have to sit and redshirt his freshman year and then behind more experienced quarterbacks thereafter, though finally, as a junior, he was able to showcase his abilities, arm strength, accuracy, athleticism, anticipation in leading the Bison to a national championship crown. And number 3, after a senior season marred by yet another injury, Wentz was able to come back and help the Bison win yet another FCS national championship with his abilities dazzling scouts in a sport that very rarely falls for lower-level players, especially at the most important position in sports. A 5'8", 125-pound high school kid transforming into a quarterback, shaking hands with the commissioner on the opening night of the NFL draft? Come on, never should have happened.
All right, a couple of updates. Robert Condice to the Arizona Cardinals following that Joshua Garnett pick. I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry that a great value fell to a really scary defense. Vernon Butler, the giant and pretty versatile defensive tackle for Louisiana Tech to Carolina, as if that defensive line needed any more help. Did you review Butler at all informally or formally?
I did not.
You did not? Okay.
Yeah,
but a large body that certainly is going to... Yeah, he looks huge. He is certainly going to take up a lot of space on a defensive line that already includes guys like Star Lotulelei. So they are going to be so dangerous.
K1 short, man.
Yeah, K1 short. Yeah, so they are going to continue to be fierce, which they're going to need without Josh Norman to protect the sort of back end of that defense. That happens. Kenny Clark, the defensive tackle from UCLA, goes to Green Bay. They've had a bit of a UCLA connection. Green Bay, Dayton Jones, Jonathan Franklin didn't work out. But yeah, that's interesting. They're shoring up their defense. Paxton Lynch, we mentioned, to Denver. Let's go back to where we were before, though. Taylor Decker, or we talked.
We finished Corey Coleman.
Taylor Decker to
Detroit. Lions at the 16.
Yes, to the Lions. You reviewed Taylor Decker, the Ohio State left tackle, who you're not crazy about his technique, but he made it work.
Right. Well, the thing of it is that he's a tall guy. He's 6'7", but he plays high, and normally. You always hear low man wins when it comes to football or wrestling, for that matter. And it's really true. Usually the guy that can stay the lowest is a guy who doesn't get moved off the spot. But Taylor Decker, some kind of way, will come off really, really high comparatively and still be able to make all the blocks. So I mean, it was a weird thing because at first I thought he was terrible when I watched his tape. Because I'm like, I'm just conditioned to see a guy playing high and be like, well, this dude sucks.
Right.
But then I'm like, well, nobody's really beating him though. And hey, he just kind of pancaked the guy and gave him the business.
It's not technically emoji, but it's almost like a shruggy. It's like, I guess it works. I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah. And he plays with an edge. He's got a nasty streak about him, which I always love anyway. I didn't really appreciate it when I actually played those nasty, mean
now you respect it.
Linemen, but I really respect it now, and those are the kind of guys that I would want on my team. And so I think he's going to give the Lions an upgrade at offensive tackle and kind of give them an edge that they've been lacking, I think, along their offensive line.
And they've also invested in offensive line, signing our pal Jeff Schwartz. So the Lions in good shape with their offensive line. I had to get the Jeff plug in there. I had to.
He's a good friend of the show.
Good friend of the show. So we like that pick for the Lions. Susannah, any thoughts? NFC North?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely fills a need, and also he kind of fits that whole Detroit mentality.
Not moving all that far.
Matthew Stafford needs all the help he can get and staying upright. So
and has one less enormous target to play with in Calvin Johnson.
Who's that? Some guy, I don't know, we heard of that guy, the guy that kind of retired?
Calvin Johnson.
Was he any good?
Small name.
Good?
Keanu Neal, which I believe is he the first NFL Keanu? Is that what all the stories were?
Yes, he was actually named for Keanu Reeves.
I love it.
No way.
Keanu Neal.
No
But
way.
he's not a Keanu Reeves fan himself.
Yes, so he's the safety from Florida, goes to the Falcons, who need all the help that they themselves can get defensively. Do we feel strong enough for an emoji? I feel like they're just going to keep taking defensive players and keep hoping. We're going with the 100. I'm going with it. Atlanta needs it.
Yeah, sure.
You know, the weird thing about this is that all of these coaches that come from Seattle seem to try to get the same type of players.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that that's the way to go. You know, so it's great that it worked out that way in Seattle, but you're constantly chasing it. Just get good players. And I think he is a good player.
Yeah.
But I don't think that should be kind of the prerequisite is that, we got to find the next Cam Chancellor or the next Earl Thomas. Just find good players and then it'll all work out.
Okay, Ryan Kelly, the center from Alabama, goes to Indianapolis. I don't think it's worth our emojis. I don't think it's worth our emotion because I want to go heavy emoji on Shaq Lawson to Buffalo and Rex Ryan signing yet another Clemson defensive player. I'm going to find something real good here.
We probably should have printed out more than 8 emojis.
We should have done more.
I'll throw up the fire.
Yeah, fire.
I'm going to tears. I love it so much it hurts. And I have tears streaming down my face. I love Shaq Lawson so damn much. You saw what he was able to do injured in the national championship game.
He's great.
Yeah.
And going to a Buffalo defense that you know Rex Ryan is going to focus all of his energies on improving. I think it's a no-brainer. Love it so much. Tears are streaming down my face. What did we see from Shaq Lawson that gives us so much confidence in his ability to succeed next to a player like Marcel Darius?
Well, I'm not a huge watcher of college football, but I could watch the national championship game, and even with my little pea brain, I could be like, that guy's going to be good in the NFL.
Yes.
Like, that's all it took. You're just like, that guy's kicking ass.
Yes, absolutely. What did you like when you watched film of Shaq Lawson?
Well, he's one of those guys that actually has more than 1 or 2 moves. Like this guy, he has a really good spin move. He has a pretty good edge move as well. And so he's not going to let an offensive tackle just block him easily. If you block one thing, he'll go to something else.
Right.
And really and truly, the reason why I like this so much for Buffalo is because I think one area that Rex failed at in New York was finding that edge rusher. He kept trying to look for that guy. Drafted Quentin Coples at one point, but he never could find that one guy that you didn't have to scheme. You didn't have to scheme up to get him to get pressure on the quarterback. I think Shaq Lawson by himself can get pressure on either side of the offensive line. And so they lost Mario Williams, but this is a totally different kind of guy. This guy, he stood up, he played this position in college, so he's going to be comfortable.
Trained, yes.
And of course, Rex's son goes there, so he knows probably everything there is to know about Shaq Lawson. So I think this is just a great fit for him overall.
All right, let's let this love fest continue because Darren Lee is somebody that terrified me as an Oregon fan in the national championship. He goes to Rex Ryan's old team at number 20, the Jets, shoring up that defense, which That's a scary defense. Yeah, I'm going sunglasses. We got eyeballs. We got 100. We feel very strongly about Darren Lee and his athleticism. He should be able to wreak havoc all over the field. And that's especially important to play with that kind of athleticism against, you're playing New England twice a year, and they've got these tiny little fast guys. Dion Lewis is going to be back. You need somebody that's going to be able to keep up with them at linebacker, and these are not people that grow on trees at all. Any thoughts? Any additional Darren Lee? I mean, yet another Buckeye. Susannah, thoughts for the Jets? Matt, it's 5 Buckeyes.
That's incredible.
That is ridiculous.
I think it's a great one. The linebacker, as good as the Jets were on defense last year, they have some aging pieces in the linebacking core. Bringing in youth and talent with a first-round pick is a great call.
Absolutely. And then we have a little mini run on receivers at 21, 2, and 3. And just give me your opinion, Stephen, via emoji at first, of course, on the order of these receivers.
Yep, there it is.
Fuller to the Texans.
I hate to do this.
I was waiting for this one.
But I don't understand, and I'm not even really doing this towards Will Fuller.
Right.
I'm trying to figure out why the Texans moved up one spot to take Will Fuller, and then Washington, the very next pick who they switched with, got the better receiver, in my opinion, in Josh Doctson. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
And Laquan Treadwell is still on the board, too.
Listen,
it's not like there was a shortage of wide receivers.
I don't get it, and I don't know, but, hey, proud to him.
Steven's reaction was the best when that was called. He was just like,
What is it that separates Doctson from Fuller, and in your opinion, Coleman, and in your opinion, Treadwell? What is it that's so special about Doxson's game that Washington is getting?
Well, for one thing, he just does a great job of tackling the football in the air. If you throw it up, those 50-50 balls that are so popular now, that guy's going to go up and get it. He's got a 41-inch vertical leap.
Same.
He's already 6'2", and then he's got great hands. And that is the biggest difference between him and Will Fuller. It was funny. They were talking about Will Fuller on like the ESPN broadcast, and every single catch he was catching it underhanded, and it was just bouncing into his chest. And it was like, after that, it was like, well, sometimes you don't really know why a guy has a bunch of drops. You just showed why he has a bunch of drops, because he doesn't know how to catch. Look, I'm trying not to be too hard on the kid. I hope he, it makes me look stupid and goes out there and plays well, but from what I've seen, he's got feet for hands, and he's going to be Ted Ginn 2.0.
All right, Washington and Josh Doctson. Steven's higher. How do you feel, Susannah? How do you feel, Matt, about Washington? Is there an emoji that perhaps sums up the deepest depths of your feelings about? I really like this pick.
I really wish we had more.
So they go.
Emojis, man.
So Washington goes.
Limited,
they go offensive line, and Brandon Scherff certainly grew through last season. Trent Williams, there is talent protecting Kirk Cousins. He certainly has talent to throw to somewhat, but a little bit aging. What do we think about Josh Doctson giving them a big old deep threat?
Here's my poop emoji, and here's why. I don't like this new reality in which Washington apparently makes intelligent football decisions. Trading down one spot and getting a better player at the same position for it. Drafting Brandon Scherff at 5 overall last year. Letting RG3 walk in free agency. Scott McCloughan knows what he's doing, and Daniel Snyder is letting him do it, and I hate it.
So you don't like the fact that Scott McCloughan is basically, what's his name, John Tapper from Bar Rescue? Yeah. It's like, what are you doing here?
Yes.
You're wasting all sorts of good stuff.
Yes.
Let me help you out.
He's football John Tapper.
He's football John Tapper. He just comes in and, so yeah, I'm going to go fire with it. I'm going fire with it. I feel good about it.
It's a good pick.
Kirk Cousins is probably very happy. And, he's been long asleep. He drank a little bit of milk. He went to sleep. Kirk Cousins will find out tomorrow morning via AOL. And
he's definitely still not awake.
He will be thrilled.
His pastor's texting him right now.
Yeah. So Laquan Treadwell at 23, as we saw earlier in the pre-draft show, an incredible story that he's even at the point to get back to a first-round pick. But when you look at the strength of this Minnesota offense, it's clearly the run game. You have a deep threat, that's nice, but do you feel like, I don't feel like they're going to take that many chances downfield. Is Laquan Treadwell their biggest need at this point?
No.
What would have been to you?
If you watched as much as 4.5 minutes of any Vikings game where they happen to have a possession on offense, the glaring need that you would see was that, like, Teddy Bridgewater has approximately 1.5 seconds to throw the ball before he gets hit by a very large man. They needed offensive line help in a very bad way. They need wide receivers as well. Don't get me wrong. They also need wide receivers, but what they need more is to keep their franchise quarterback upright.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I don't think we've even seen what Teddy Bridgewater can actually do. He has never had time to throw the ball.
We needed just max protect. The road to max protect needs to continue towards Teddy Bridgewater. Do you have any strong feeling? I mean, you like Laquan Treadwell and the way he plays the game. You're a little bit worried about his top end speed.
Right, but I think that this is a good fit for him because Teddy Bridgewater doesn't take a whole bunch of shots down the field. He throws a lot of those nice underneath intermediate routes.
Right.
And I think Laquan Treadwell will be really good at that, especially catching contested catches.
Yep.
And then, of course, with the running game, like Matt was talking about, he's going to block his tail off in the running game
there
too.
You go.
So
He can play some tackle for them.
Well,
he's going to be eligible tackle.
He can do a lot of things. I don't think he can do that one.
William Jackson. A lot of people said he had the potential to be the best lockdown corner in this draft for Houston. He goes to Cincinnati. A lot of people pegged the Bengals to take a receiver alongside A.J. Green because this is largely a finished Cincinnati team. They were better than their results in the playoffs last year because of Andy Dalton's injury, so it would have made sense for if one of those guys had fallen to them, but the receivers all go before 24. They shore up the defense. Any strong thoughts via or not via emoji?
Well, it makes a lot of sense. Adam Jones is 33 now.
That's true. They are old.
They're old in the secondary, and I think it makes sense to infuse it with some
on target.
Yes.
On target.
If you can't get a first round, we saw that the 4 wide receivers that went off the board just before the Bengals picked were the 4 first round quality wide receivers. So if you're not going to get first round quality, then draft for your next position of need, and I think that is cornerback.
Absolutely, and their division is such that, so Cleveland has a good receiver in Corey Coleman now, but moving forward, the Steelers might have the best receiver in football.
Might, yeah. No, I think that's a sure thing.
I think we're ready to claim that.
Yeah.
And we'll see with Baltimore. Certainly they're in a transitionary time, but they have a good quarterback, so you want to stock up defensively, and Cincinnati's in a good place. The pick only makes them better. The Steelers themselves go with Artie Burns out of nowhere.
Uncle Artie.
I can't tell
Artie Burns!
I didn't even think he was the best defensive back for Miami. I thought that was Deion Bush.
When you said Artie Burns from Miami, I thought you meant a 73-year-old lawyer who manages money.
Well, no, there definitely is an Artie Burns who does that in Miami as well. But yeah, Pittsburgh goes corner as well, and their defense has certainly taken a step back. Their secondary was quite old these past few years. So, all right. Artie Burns.
Artie Burns.
All right, sure. That's our shruggy. That's our in-person shruggy. Let's move on to Paxton Lynch, who we've mentioned. A raw quarterback goes to Denver. They go the route of hoping for the best out of a project quarterback, still in the first round, still making first-round money, not going after Colin Kaepernick and the $11 million he wanted. They trade up. Do we feel good? They trade up with the Seahawks. We feel good about the Seahawks. Paxton Lynch, Susannah, what are your thoughts on Denver, who will have a defense that takes a step back?
Yeah.
A couple big losses, but certainly there are pieces all over the field.
I mean, given the choice between Colin Kaepernick and Paxton Lynch,
an unknown quantity,
exactly. Yeah. You're sort of like, you don't know what you're going to get in Colin Kaepernick. I don't know if he's the type of player that a change of environment is going to do him much good. So I think it's smart. It was obviously a need, a really big need for Denver. So
and not a reach, by the way.
Yeah.
It's not like they drafted him 9 or 11.
No, exactly.
It feels like I don't know, if Carson Wentz went 26 to Denver, we'd be like, good for Denver.
Yeah.
Good for Denver.
Sure.
So I'm feeling good for Denver with Paxton Lynch there.
I think we're being a little bit unfair to Mark Sanchez, who still has a shot at the starting job.
Yeah, it's April.
Mercy.
It is April. I don't think we forgot about Mark
Mercy.
Sanchez. Green Bay goes defense in Kenny Clark. He was not on your radar, Steven, as a defensive tackle, a highly touted defensive lineman coming out of high school, and certainly was good for a very good UCLA defense.
Well, I actually did watch a couple of his games, but they only had like 2 or 3 of his games up on Draft Breakdown, so I couldn't do a breakdown on him. But definitely a guy that caught my eye. A very explosive guy. I kind of thought he was going to be more of a nose tackle, but he ended up being more of a 3 technique to me.
Right.
Obviously, in Green Bay, in the 3-4, he's going to probably be more like a defensive end or something like that. But again, I think he's going to give them some really good pass rush inside, kick inside to the 3 technique when it's 3rd and long. And, you know, that defense does need some players. They're still relying on guys like Julius Peppers to provide them with pass rush. And, again, he's like 50 years old. So they need an influx of young talent. They've tried to kind of throw bodies at different positions. It hasn't really worked out. But I think Kenny Clark is a very intriguing prospect for them.
Okay, so I love this pick because we saw what Aaron Rodgers was able to do with backups on offense last year. He was still able to mostly succeed. So you give that defense a boost. You give Aaron Rodgers an opportunity to get into rhythm. His offense will be healthier. I like the idea of teams with great quarterbacks helping on the defensive side. I think it makes everybody better. So I like that move. San Francisco goes guard. We talked about that with Fuchs, with Joshua Garnett. Not a great year for guard. A lot of people had Cody Whitehair as the best interior offensive lineman outside of Ryan Kelly. But certainly the Stanford connection, the Bay Area.
I feel like it's a good pick for the team.
It's solid.
It's not a great pick for the position and B, the trade that they made to get to that position.
Right. It felt like they could grab him in the second round.
They could have had him in the second round. Or like, they didn't have to move to the first round. They could have moved up earlier in the second round and not given up as much draft capital. I feel like this is a pick made, or a trade and a pick made based on a geographical bias.
Interesting. Okay, so they got to see him real close.
We had the chance to scout this guy and see a lot of his games in person. We just like his makeup. It doesn't mean that they're wrong. It means that I think that other teams didn't value him the same way, and they probably, maybe they have inside intel that we don't have, but it looks a little bit curious from an outsider's perspective.
Fair enough. And finally, we talked about Vernon Butler, the very, very large man from Louisiana Tech going to Carolina.
One of the top 2 Vernons in the first round.
Easily one of the top 2 Vernons. I hope Vernon Adams gets drafted. The Seahawks go with Jermaine Ifedi. The Texas A&M Aggies are a team that have put quality offensive linemen into the league recently. The system has worked out really well for Aggie offensive linemen. Your thoughts on the Seahawks grabbing from the Broncos pick to grab that pick?
So the Seahawks, of course, trust in the ability of offensive line coach Tom Cable to mold amazing physiques and physical talents to become great offensive linemen.
Right.
He's right. They're right about getting the offensive or getting the physical specimens, getting the athletes.
Yes.
But what we saw in terms of turning them into good offensive linemen was what we saw last year on the field.
Yeah.
So, again, part of that was they didn't have anybody aside of Justin Britt that was higher than second rounder.
Right.
So maybe getting some first round. I don't want to say talent, but Jermaine Ifedi is certainly the physical specimen. He looks like a left tackle.
So where does he play next year, would you say?
Left guard or right tackle.
Okay, so he slides in and will eventually end up. I mean, if you're taking a tackle in the first round, there's a good shot that he's going to end up at left tackle at some point. You would
some
presume.
Point in the future, yeah.
Although right tackle and left tackle aren't all that different. Russell Wilson is throwing the ball a lot, is in play action a lot, so it's a different kind of offense. You're so nervous about Russell Wilson's bones after what he went through last year.
Yeah.
Having, honestly, the back half of Russell Wilson's season last year, even with that disaster of an offensive line, was impressive.
Yeah.
So you have to be encouraged.
If I can be a homer for 30 more seconds. The fact that I saw Jermaine Ifedi mocked to the Seahawks at 26.
Right.
The fact that they got him at 31 and then got an additional third-round pick from the Broncos for trading back is huge. They get a whole extra player plus Jermaine Ifedi.
So which picks, and we'll start with you, Stephen, and you can, I don't know if you have the picks in front of you. I hope you do. Which picks are the perfect marriages from a scheme, personality? Like, for example, Shaq Lawson just feels right.
Yeah.
He's going to look great in a Bills uniform. He's going to wreak havoc. It just all spells just loveliness. I think Jalen Ramsey in Jacksonville.
Yep.
Buckner.
DeForest Buckner for sure.
DeForest Buckner in San Francisco makes a ton of sense. He's going to come in and contribute right away.
You know what? I don't love the pick for value, but Zeke Elliott to the Cowboys is the perfect Cowboys pick.
Yeah, it makes sense. It is the most Cowboys pick possible.
It sounds like Jerry Jones was a driving force for that, and it's going to make the Cowboys a whole lot of fun to watch.
He might have been in the draft room saying, "Can we take Manziel? Can we take Manziel?"
He might have been. And the other thing I'd say is Robert Kondiche to the Cardinals.
Shaq Lawson too.
Yeah, said Shaq Lawson. I think Ryan Kelly. We didn't really mention it at the Colts. I think right on target. Andrew Luck's about to make a whole lot of money. They don't want all of his organs ruptured next season once again. So yes, Ryan Kelly is smart, and you generally get a lot of years out of centers. These are generally heady guys that take care of themselves as best as they can.
He flew up the draft board over the last week. Like, he was mocked as like early second round, and then in the last like 5 days, he was mocked boom, 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 all way up.
I like the no doubt guys, that he is no doubt the best center. He had separated himself without a question. The Colts recognize that. They didn't take like the 9th receiver that they never needed. So I like the Ryan Kelly pick.
They just need one more weapon for Andrew Luck. That's what's keeping him back.
It appears we have forgotten to talk about the Patriots' first-round pick.
Oh,
it appears. I keep scrolling.
They didn't come up all night.
Yeah, that's weird.
Did they trade
I keep pushing
out?
refresh, and it's not coming up.
We need to keep checking, and so
refresh.
I guess we'll have to get back. Oh, God, I don't know. Which picks made the least sense? Where you're just like, come on, take a second and do it again. Take a second and do it again. Like, to me, the Will Fuller pick to Houston, like, they don't have a ton of needs. This is not a team that was all that far away. If they had a decent quarterback last year,
they took care of needs in free agency, signing Brock Osweiler.
Yes, absolutely.
If anything, like add more punch to that defense. Just make your defense more terrifying.
Vince Wilfork is probably in his last season. To go. And I don't know if you grabbed Vernon Butler there. There weren't that many true noses in this year's class. I mean, A'Shawn Robinson didn't go in the first round. Jerron Reed did not go in the first round.
Yeah, there was some meat left on the table.
Kevin Dodd didn't go in the first round. There are a lot of good defensive linemen that are going to be available the next couple days.
Especially, like, J.J. Watt played last season with, like, 30 torn muscles.
Yep.
They've got another defensive end / outside linebacker who's had a microfracture surgery on his knee.
Yep.
And like, they should have stocked up on the defensive line or anywhere on the defense.
Or the secondary, too, because their secondary was a little weak, in my opinion, last year. So I'm still scratching my head about Bosa, so we'll see how that works out. Again, I understand that they need a 5 technique. I think the guy who's penciled in to start was like a 6th-round pick from last year. But you don't go need at number 3. I mean, you shoot for the moon. You go for that guy who's going to change the whole outlook of your franchise. And I just, in a 4-3 defense, maybe Bosa could be that guy. I just don't see him being that guy in a 3-4.
Susanna, what did you not understand? Who do you wish had a do-over?
I'm a little perplexed by the Eli Apple and the Giants, only because there were so many other options that were still on the board for them to shore up the defensive line. To me, that was the biggest issue for them, and so I was kind of like, huh. Really?
Matt, I'm gonna give you a bonus pick since I know you enjoy telling people they're wrong. So who is the wrongest of the wrong?
I think I've already said my piece with the Niners being a little bit too eager to get Garnett. But I think the fact that I hadn't even seen Artie Burns.
Artie Burns!
I just want to say Artie Burns. Artie Burns. Hey, I'm here to intercept the pass. Oh, what are you doing running past me? Stop that. He's probably a very nice young man.
He is probably very nice. And as this show threatens to go off the rails, I would like to thank everybody for tuning in and watching. I would like to thank Stephen, Susanna, and Matt, and our beautiful emojis.
And Wendy's.
And Wendy's. No, of course we're thanking Wendy's. I just want to make sure if I get the proper emoji
I didn't mean
for my own performance.
Oh, I got my performance.
I know.
Right.
I'm going straight fire. I'm judging. I love it.
The poop every day.
And of course, we'd like to thank.
Losing money.
We'd like to thank Wendy's and their jalapeno fresco spicy chicken sandwich. The show is presented by their beautiful sandwich.
We really should have gotten the spicy fresco sandwich emoji.
I'm going right now to pick one up myself.
Really?
How about that?
I'm already
a little bit hungry. Midnight
Why
snack.
stop now?
All right. Thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned to SB Nation all weekend long, constantly updating. Find your team's community. Keep hitting refresh. SB Nation is your one-stop source. Thank you for watching. We'll see you soon.